The term slow flight sounds pretty simple, right? But what it really is this incredible aeronautical balancing act. It's one of those things in flying that really challenges your basic gut feeling about how a plane is supposed to work, especially when you're pushing it right to the very edge of what it can do. So let me just ask you this. If you want to make an airplane fly slower, what's your first instinct? I bet you're thinking, easy, you pull the power back, right? Less power equals less speed. That just makes logical sense. Well, in the bizarre world of slow flight, that's completely wrong. The reality is, to fly slower without losing altitude, a pilot actually has to push the throttle in and add more power. I know, it sounds crazy. This is the paradox we're going to unpack today, where the normal rules of flying get totally flipped on their head. Okay, so you're probably wondering, why on earth would any pilot want to do this? Why would you intentionally fly in a way that feels so unstable and, frankly, backwards? Well, the answer is that this skill is absolutely essential during the most dangerous parts of any flight, takeoff and landing. And when I say essential, I mean the stakes could not be higher. During takeoff and landing, the plane is already slow. Its nose is already pitched up. It's basically living in a state where it's vulnerable to a stall. And when you're that close to the ground, you have zero room for error. There's just no altitude to recover. That's why mastering slow flight isn't just a good idea, it's a required maneuver for every single pilot's license, from private all the way to the airlines. So how is this even physically possible? How can more power make you go slower? Well, the whole explanation lies in a concept that pilots call being on the backside of the power curve. You'll also hear it called the region of reversed command. To really get this, we have to talk about lift. As your plane slows down, you have less air flowing over the wings, which means you're generating less lift. So to stop yourself from just falling out of the sky, you have to pull back on the yoke, which raises the plane's nose. This move increases what we call the angle of attack, or AOA, and that forces the wing to create the lift you need, but at a much slower speed. But here is the catch. And trust me, it is a big one. While that high angle of attack is giving you the lift you desperately need, it comes with a gigantic penalty, a huge increase in something called induced drag. The best way to think about it is like deploying a massive air brake. The air itself is just grabbing onto the wings, trying to slow the plane down even more. And this brings us right to that region of reversed command. See, in normal flight, you pitch the nose up to climb and you add power to go faster. Simple. But back here, on the back side of the curve, your controls are literally backwards. Pitching the nose up and down now becomes your primary control for speed. And because of all that insane drag, the engine's power is what you now use to control your altitude, to keep from sinking. It's wild. So what does it actually look like when a pilot performs this maneuver? It is not as simple as just holding the controls steady. Oh no, it is a constant, delicate dance that takes an incredible amount of focus. For the pilot inside the cockpit, the feeling is just unmistakable. As the plane gets really slow, the sound of the wind rushing by changes completely. And the controls, which are normally so crisp and responsive, they start to feel soft and mushy. It's like you're trying to stir really thick mud. The whole aircraft just feels like it's balanced on a knife's edge. So the whole thing starts with the pilot pulling the power back to slow down, while at the same time pulling back on the yoke to keep the nose up. But then, as that induced drag starts to build and build, they have to start adding power back in just to hold a steady speed right above a stall. Any turns have to be super shallow and gentle, and then to get out of it, you have to smoothly apply full power to break free from that high drag state. It's a real workout. Now, because this is all so counterintuitive, it should be no surprise that there are some really common and pretty dangerous mistakes that pilots, especially student pilots, have to learn to avoid. One of the biggest challenges is that at these super slow speeds, the ailerons on the wings become almost useless. There's just not enough air flowing over them to work properly. This means the rudder becomes your new best friend. It's really the key to making smooth, coordinated turns and preventing the plane from slipping or skidding sideways through the air, which can get you into a spin really fast. Some other classic mistakes include getting so focused on your instruments that you forget to look outside and just feel what the airplane is telling you. But the absolute most dangerous mistake is being slow to react. On a pilot check ride, there is zero, and I mean zero, tolerance for this. The second you hear that stall warning horn, you have to recover. Instantly. So after going through all that difficulty and concentration, what's the actual payoff here? Well, it's all about connecting this really hard practice maneuver to the real world skills that make a pilot not just good, but truly safe and precise. Honestly, mastering this one skill opens the door to so much more. It's what lets you take off from a short runway and clear the trees at the end. It's what lets you land gently on a soft, grassy field without digging in. It even gives you more control and more time to think if your engine ever quits. It's the building block for all sorts of advanced commercial maneuvers. But at the end of the day, the real benefit is confidence. It's about developing that intuitive feel for the airplane, truly understanding its limits, and knowing, really knowing, that you can keep control even when the plane is flying on the absolute ragged edge of its performance. Which, of course, brings up one last question. We've talked a lot about flying right up to the edge of a stall, but what happens when a pilot pushes it just a little too far and actually goes over that edge? Well, that's a story for next time.